What is up, guys? It's Dawson Lawler with Texas State Tortoises and all things Chelonians. I'm joined here by Dirk Barnard and Dane Phillip as our newest co-host. I'm excited to have Dane here. He's a well-liked person in the reptile community right now.
Hope so.
As you guys know, I'm Dawson. I run Texas State Tortoises. We'll let Dane introduce himself.
Dane Phillip, from South Dakota, which is in the middle of nowhere. Work at Reptile Gardens, which is one of the world's largest reptile collections. And yeah, I like turtles.
Yeah, don't we all like turtles?
Yeah, honestly, that's why we're here.
Oh, Dane wrestles alligators. Don't let him be too humble with you guys. He does a lot of cool stuff. Wrestles with alligators. He takes care of all the giant tortoises and turtles and all reptiles there. He works with some really amazing species. He does a great job. And me and Dane met at TTPG last year and went on our own little adventure. And then we went on turtle tours together. And, after meeting with each other, we decided, we do really well. We do really well together. And I think it's going to be the best option for this podcast going forward is that he's our co-host. So without further ado, we're going to introduce the one and only Dirk Barnard. Dirk, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
Great. I'm happy to have you here. I just want to say I'm extremely thankful for you. What time is it in Africa right now?
Hey, don't be American. South Africa.
South Africa. My apologies.
It is now 4 minutes to 3.
3 in the morning.
4 minutes
this guy
to 3.
is dedicated to his craft, and we should all show him our
gratitude. My sponsor for today.
Like I said, we're super grateful to have you, and I appreciate you. You're working on your conservation efforts to help protect some tortoises, some Chelonians over in that area, a lot of which some of us back home work with, and we have little to no experience of what it's like in South Africa and what's really going on. So me and Dane thought it'd be a great idea to have you on here to talk about what you do, what your plans are, how we can help, and going further. So we'll start it off like we always do. I'm going to start off with what got you into turtles and tortoises, like what got you into Chelonians and reptiles, and we can go from there.
It's actually a very weird story. So basically, as a child, I was bullied in like pre-primary. I don't know what you guys call it, but it's like pre-primary school. So when you're like between the ages of 5 and 7, they're around before you go to actual school. And I always found comfort in animals, but then my grandfather used to have a farm in the Oeverberg, which falls under the most endangered biome in the world, which is the Renosterveld. There's less than 5% of its natural habitat left. And we actually found a few tortoises on my grandfather's farm. And, that was actually my first introduction to tortoises. And then my father opened a business that was about 25 years ago, roughly, where they installed in townships. It's basically rural settlements that you have jukeboxes and pool tables and stuff. Then you can put a coin in, you can play a game, all that. And then the one day my father's workers came, we call it a bucky, you guys call it a pickup truck. Okay. So they came with a bucky, and there was a huge leopard tortoise in, and I was just like, why the hell are you bringing this big animal here? And then they just said, it was either we bring it here, or it was they put it on its back while it's alive on coals on the fire, and they obviously eat it. And then I just told them, I will give you guys something extra whenever you see this happen again. Bring them home. And at that time, I didn't even know you need permits for all the animals. And then then I started to appreciate it more, that they are actually extremely vulnerable animals. So that's why I've got a very, very big passion for chameleons and tortoises, because as with other reptiles, with snakes and stuff, they can actually, in a way, defend themselves if they're venomous or not. They do have teeth and all that, but with chameleons and tortoises, I mean, they've only got so much defense. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's basically how I started with tortoises, in the sense that, they are animals that are easily bullied, easily hurt. And yeah, that's how I got into conservation with them, started doctoring them, going to different estates. If we went away for a weekend and there's electrified fencing, finding one that's injured or hit by a car. At that time, there wasn't a lot of YouTube videos and stuff like that on how to doctor different tortoises. And yeah, so that's basically how I got into it.
Well, it sucks to hear that you were bullied, but everything happens for a reason. And now look at you today. It's gotten you where you are, and part of your.
It's a great story. I love that.
Exactly. So we kind of skip back. Let's take it back a notch. Tell me about yourself, where you grew up, what you do, and your journey to the point where you're at now.
Okay, so basically I'm back in the city. We moved about 5 years ago back from Cape Town to here. So I live in George. It's in the Southern Cape. It's actually weird. The Southern Cape falls under the Western Cape, which is the more southerly part, southeasterly part of South Africa. Sorry. And yeah, so my current occupation is a plumber. A lot of people say I'm very good at it and I'm very neat working and all that, but in an ideal world, I would like to move away from plumbing completely and make conservation my complete occupation. But yeah, so what I'm currently busy with, I like doing field trips and so on to areas at least twice a year or so. Try and monitor, especially, on hot-ish days, what's the amount of tortoises I do find, what's the species I do find, the sex ratios between males and females, how many are alive, how many are dead, just to get a bit of a feel on, what is the actual impact of urbanization on tortoise species. And, with my NPO, although it's called Tortoise Conservation South Africa, tortoises will be the main focus point, but I would still very much like to work with reptiles in general, various endangered species. In some cases, I think there's too much emphasis on, this species is endangered, and there's not enough emphasis on this other species is going to get endangered if we don't start working on it now. So, yes, I would very much like to work with more South African species, but the only thing that's holding me back currently is funding. The main reason is, you can see above my head, for instance, there's a second floor. So that's basically, my wife said, the current place that we stay in, although we do have a garden and I do have angular tortoises that are breeding in the garden, the reptile room may not have an additional room. So I just said, okay, we'll stuff you. Then I'm going to build in a second floor in the reptile room. So that's why I've got 2 floors now. So my exhibition animals, like my puff adders and boomslang and all that, that'll all be in the first floor. And yeah, then at least have a little bit more space. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome.
Those are cool animals to work with. Here's something we were talking on the phone a couple days ago, and you brought up some of these wives' tales and some of these myths that are in South Africa that you want to kind of squish, and the one that caught my attention was the chameleons, and how people think chameleons are venomous in South Africa. Would you mind kind of
tell us about that?
Saying something a little more on that, because I just think that's funny to me. But
yeah, look, I'm talking under correction, but as far as I know, chameleons do possess venom glands, but they don't have venom. I may be totally wrong with that. I must actually just look that up again. I actually did tell myself I must check that, and I didn't. But yeah, so I do a lot of charity work as well. During COVID, one of the ladies outside my city actually saw, a lot of people didn't have jobs, and obviously they didn't have pay. So so without pay you can't get food. And so she started handing out sandwiches every day, started a soup kitchen, all that. And then she started realizing, with a lot of communities in South Africa, you can try and take over and try and take control of it, but at the end of the day, there's nothing really that you can do. There's just simply too much. But with a lot of these families, the dogs don't physically get dog pellets. They get the scraps of what is left of dinner. If there's no scraps, the dogs don't get food. I personally can't fathom that, but that is the reality. So we started a food drive for the dogs. Then once a day I would go. Various companies sponsored it. The easiest was just to open a bag of dog food, just chuck the whole bag in the streets, otherwise the dogs will fight. And I saw this little boy walking to something in the road, and he lifted his leg, and he wanted to squish it, and it was a little Knysna dwarf chameleon, and I immediately shouted at him. And they asked me, can they get sandwiches? Yeah, cool. The guy said, listen, if you're so badly opposed to us killing chameleons, why don't you come and take the rest out of my garden? And I'm not lying, within about 15 minutes they brought me a bucket with about 40 Knysna dwarf chameleons.
Wow.
And I just took all of them to the botanical garden here and released them all. But a lot of them, they think the children are extremely brave if they hold a chameleon on their hands, because this is now this seriously dangerous animal, and there's a lot of taboo with it. And so a lot of misconceptions with many reptiles. I'd probably say the biggest misconception currently is with boomslang, where a lot of people would say, boomslang can only bite you on your finger, or it can only bite you on your ear, or they can open their mouth 135 degrees. So yes, they are rear-fanged, but they can still bite you.
Super interesting, and it's very astonishing to me that they have different views. I'm not sure, I can't speak for everybody over there, but from what it seems like, they have different views about reptiles as we do over here. A lot of in the reptile community. I can't speak for the people outside the reptile community, but they have a unique viewpoint on these animals and these reptiles, and there's really no regard. But they do live in a different type of world over there, and it's a lot different from what we've been raised and accustomed to over here. So I can't really speak on that. I just want to let everybody know. So above, I don't know, right there's a QR code. You can scan that QR code. It sends you directly to Dirk's NPO. That is going to donate the money to what he's going to talk about now. So I want everybody to be aware that that's there. And so a part of the tent giveaway was sharing the post, but we didn't get that many people to share the post because I posted a little late. That's on me. So we're going to change it up a bit. It's going to be the highest donator is going to receive the tent. So whoever donates the highest, maybe someone donates $1 and that's the only person that donates. So be it, you'll get the tent. The tent is a 6x2x2. It's by Danny Bolin and his reptile tents. It's they're really nice setup. I have one right here, and I'll have that shipped to your place. I'll purchase it and take care of everything once we decide who's donated the highest at the end of this. At the end of the and if you have donated already, just put it in the comments. Like Sam said, he's already donated. Some of these guys have donated. The goal is to get more funds in so he can better further his NPO, because I think it's great. This is really something that all of us in the tortoise community should look at, because in the end, what's happening over there is going to affect what happens over here as well. And that's the ultimate goal. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Dirk, and we're going to let him talk about his NPL, how it got started, what are his goals. We'll start off with how you started your NPL. What made you start it and take the action for you to do it, not just to join up with somebody else, and why you continue to do it by yourself?
Yeah, a lot of interesting questions. The thing is in South Africa is it's not something that I just did very likely. I was looking at possibly doing collaborations, all that. And I think there's too much of a stigma in, everybody thinks it's what you know. And I've always just believed it's not what you know, it's who you know. So for instance, with me, like I said, I've been working with tortoises for the past 25 years. As soon as you start seeing, especially in my city, the amount of development that is happening. I did a post this morning about it. I removed the puff adder from a residence on Friday, and the same questions always pop up on, like, how do these animals get here? I mean, they're in my garden, and then if you walk from the person's patio just into their garden, within about 10 meters, you'll see there's forest, and that forest is right in the green belt. So, and about 200 meters further on the opposite side, there's another estate also adjacent to the green belt. So later on, the animals have got nowhere else to go, especially if it's winter. Boomslang and all those animals, they try and hibernate in your ceiling boards, all that. And my specific area, George, doesn't really have that much tortoise species, but anything within about 35 kilometers outside George, that's usually where the geographical range of these tortoises start.
Oh.
So
give me a second. The link.
For instance,
so the QR code, for some reason, it's not working. I'm going to put the link down below, and then I'm going to add it to right here. So just take that and copy and paste it, and we can. For some reason, I'm not sure why it was working. It was working earlier. Of course, it's not going to work now, but we'll get the link
earlier when I printed
posted below. So continue. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to send the NPO the right funds.
No worries. Just want to check. Continue. No, it's asking me a lot of questions to join in on the comments. Sorry. So basically, the main tortoises that I'm working with currently are parrot-beak tortoises. They are not endangered currently. There was many arguments to be had on, homopus, where do they fall in? Yeah, those ones.
There you go.
And then they basically split them up into homopus and Chesobius. Funnily enough, the two Chesobius species both are currently endangered. And whenever we go on holiday, if you can maybe show the one with the crows. Perfect. Yeah, that
this
that
one.
Here?
Okay.
No, the previous one.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah,
that one. So basically, whenever we go away on a weekend, and we start entering that geographical range of 35 kilometers or so outside my city, then you start seeing dozens and dozens of pied crows or white-necked ravens. Now, yes, I understand fully these are highly intellectual birds. They teach their young from a very young age on how to, use different tools, how to predate different animals. We just discussed on the parrot-beak tortoises, if they were to ever be exported to the US and they fall under the 4-inch rule, then it has to come in as personal, all that. But parrot-beak tortoise males, if they're fully grown, they are smaller than 4 inches. So it's a very easy meal for a pied crow to have. And you'd get a lot of people, and this is where it comes in with why I always believe it's who you know and not what you know. There's a lot of guys that'll have a PhD and they'll say, yeah, but it's only the smaller tortoises that are affected. 2 years ago, I was on the West Coast, at the West Coast National Park, my wife still asked me, like, why did you stop all of a sudden? Because you're driving in the car. And I said, no, that crow is doing something suspicious, like as if it's wanting to predate something. And turned around the car, fully grown female angular tortoise of about 25, 28 centimeters. Crow's busy pecking off its head. So, somewhere you need to ask yourself, is it sustainable? In my humble opinion, no, not at all, because crows aren't they're becoming less and less migratory birds. So, usually they used to, it's weird that the IUCN would say that pied crows are a vulnerable species. That may be true in their natural habitat, but I humbly think that the main reason for that is that they are less in their natural environment and more of them are migrating permanently to South Africa. University of Cape Town did a study, I think about 6-7 years ago, trying to see why are crows in this region or in the Western Cape region so prolific. And basically what it boils down to is the optimal breeding temperature of what crows like is 17 degrees Celsius. And if you take from January to December annually in the Cape Town region, that the mean temperature is just above 17 degrees Celsius. So that is the reason why these birds do not move out of South Africa. And they do obviously get accustomed to, some tortoises get injured next to the road. There are sitting ducks next to the road. So yeah, as soon as if you see it for the first time, our crow actually kills a tortoise, then you'll understand it's one of the animals that I myself, I will rehabilitate any animal. But there's two animals that I refuse to rehabilitate, and that's a fiscal shrike. It's basically like a butcher bird. They annihilate chameleons. And pied crows. Those two. I'm not a fan of them at all. So basically, I've chatted with a few guys. I know that in the US they 3D printed tortoise shells, and then they lace them with, I think, like a grape vinegar extract. So if the ravens do puncture that tortoise, then it basically sprays out this very bitter scent, and then they start learning that, stay away from this stuff. I am looking into that, but once again, that's all falls under funding. If I can get a South African company to do it, yes. But, at this stage, I think the most important thing is not to try and get ahead of myself, because you start trying, seeing, there's hundreds of little things that you want to address. But the main thing that I'm currently looking at is, and I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. My projection is it's going to take at least 2 years to gain sufficient funds for that. But to buy a property that is not really adjacent to agricultural sectors, meaning that you don't buy a property that's an island in the middle of an agricultural sector, that there's always the option that you can expand the property, that you can form more and more green belts, or corridors, what they call it. And as soon as you have that piece of land, it takes about 12 to 18 months. Then you can register to have it as conservation status. And if it's conservation status, it can never be built on. You can obviously make provisions that you can build a house on, you can have solar, you can have a borehole, all those kind of things. And other sources of revenue for the distant future. But yeah, currently I just think that there's way too little assistance with the conservation of tortoises. I was in our national meeting, NEMBA, which is our national governing authority. We had a live podcast for public comment and stuff with them. And I mean, it's supposedly people that are very high up and they know what they're talking about and all that. And my main question was, what is being done, or what could be done is there any plans to combat, pied crows just prolifically breeding in certain areas? And not one person could reply on that. So, you try and draw the line somewhere that, nobody is doing anything about it. So maybe I must be the person that steps in.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I went, and I think that's a great idea. I think you have some great values, and I really agree with what you're doing and your goals. So that's why me and Dane and a few other guys, we're going to have a table set up at TTPG. A lot of you guys will be at TTPG. Here's the thing. That QR code is broken. Dirk, the link that you sent me is broken for everybody for some reason. So instead of doing the tent giveaway here, we're going to add it to the raffle. So there's going to be a raffle.
Cool.
For your sponsors would be F10, correct? Tell us about F10, correct?
Yes. So interestingly, my F10 has been a sponsor of mine now for the past year. I'd just like to mention the Chelonian Conservation Trust. They're based in the US. I don't know if some of you guys know Mad for Rads.
Yep. That's
oh yeah,
Florida boys. They produce some crazy radiated tortoises. We all know.
Yeah.
We all know about them.
So basically, Evan is one of the guys. Pete Koplos, who we talked about just now, he's one of the other guys. That's part of the Chelonian Conservation Group. And they till thus far they're my biggest sponsor.
Awesome.
And it's one of those touchy subjects where you get a lot of people who are completely opposed to people keeping tortoises in captivity. But the reality of the whole thing is most of the people that are opposed, and I know I may be stepping on toes, but I don't really care. A lot of these people that are opposed to people keeping tortoises in captivity, most of those people are not the kind of people that will actually give a damn in supporting my NPO. And I'm not just saying this because Evan and Pete are one of the contributors to my NPO. I'm talking in general. I mean, just when Andrew Hermes posted on his Facebook page with a link, there was a couple of guys at the TTPG, you guys included, who donated to my NPO. Obviously, both of you guys have tortoises in captivity.
Yes.
And I think one of the fine lines with this, and obviously I've been contemplating on this for quite a while. There's a lot of guys in the US that pester me every month. Can you please export tortoises to me? I so badly want to work with the tortoises. And then my main question is, what conservation goals do you have in place for this species? And for me to breed parrot-beak tortoises and to give, I don't care what the guy offers me. To give him, for instance, 2 females and 2 males, he's not affiliated with any conservation group at all. And it's out and out, it's a status thing. They just want the animals to show it off to people. If somebody has it and they're working in collaboration with another organization, I mean, Pete and Evan, for instance, do that, where they'll chat and say, listen, I've got this animals, you've got those animals, let's try and clean the bloodline that we can, exchange some animals. And for me, that falls under conservation, because if you trying to, I'm not talking about line breeding to get the best coloring and all that. You guys have got enough politics with that, you can't take animals over state lines and all that. But, I think for me, the main thing is if I were to export to anybody, if they are affiliated with a group and there's, for instance, already of that species in the United States, that they've at least got some sort of breeding program. I mean, logically, if there's, for instance, 20 parrot-beak tortoises in the whole US, in the next 10 years or so, your bloodline is going to start running really thin. And that's basically what zoos do, is they interchange bloodlines, and then you clean it. So for me, that's where I'm at. I would rather focus on not necessarily individuals, but more organizations that have various individuals that, it can be set up as a breeding program. But yeah, I understand obviously not everybody will agree with that.
No, I totally agree.
That's totally
You can imagine.
great. Yeah. I think a lot to add to that even is the educating and the getting the name of the species and that kind of thing out. Like a lot of these beginners and honestly just a lot of people in the U.S. Most of the people in the U.S. don't even know what a parabeat tortoise is. Like a lot of them just don't even care. Like it doesn't affect them if they go extinct in the wild, that kind of thing. So I totally agree with that. But I definitely think education plays a big part in the conservation of these animals as well.
I agree. And there's some really good foundations in the United States to work with as well, like the Moorcroft Foundation. Can't be more thankful for them. They've done, him and his foundation have done so much to help educate us, like me and Dane. This dude's inspired us. His organization helped paid for our trip to Florida, and we traveled to different people's collections and got to meet people we got to meet our childhood heroes, YouTube heroes. So those conservations those organizations are great. Those are awesome organizations, and there's enough money in the world to support everybody. I can agree with that more. Thinking with the tent deal, we have 2 tents. So one tent will be raffled on a random wheel generator tonight. So everybody send your names in the chat, please, so I can add you to the random wheel generator. I don't want you guys to leave this podcast empty-handed. And the second will be offered up as a raffle at the TTBG table. So again, thank you to Matt Hills. He's offered to donate a second tent from Danny Bolin. And I already got you, Dane. No problem. And we'll put that one up for raffle along with some F10 products and some other stuff from Dirk's sponsor. Yep. All that money that goes from the raffle will be given right to the NPO. Any donations you make to the NPO are super. We're super grateful for that. We'll get the link fixed after this, and then we'll get it posted all around on Facebook and throughout social media, so you guys can donate to that. Along with that fact, I have some questions there's some questions in the comment section that these people would like to ask you, Dirk. So are you open to questions from the public?
Yeah, no, 100%.
I'm in the spotlight now.
You're in the spotlight now. So we'll stop with the first one. We'll start with the first one. My bad. This one comes from Hoosier Turtle and Tortoises, Matthew Hills. Great guy. We'll throw it up on the screen, and you can. What got you into tortoises? What are you currently doing to help them in Sioux and X2? Yeah.
Okay, so just to quickly add on what Dane said before I get to that question, I actually completely forgot about that. That's actually in the group description for the NPO of mine. If you'll see that on Facebook. And education is basically the biggest part of the NPO. That's why I want to get into reptiles as a whole, and not just specifically tortoises, but more with a focus on tortoises. And one of the main parts, and that's why my personal argument for keeping animals in captivity, it's very simple. Without animals in captivity, you can't have education. So if I were to, a small part of my NPO will be completely free of charge, where you go to rural settlement schools, show them the different animals, show them chameleons, show them tortoises, show them snakes, what to do, what not to do. The most common thing when people see a snake in South Africa and it's in the house, and they lock the door and they run outside, and it doesn't help us. Because you're going to be looking for the snake for an hour, and you need to get back to work because that's your income. So that's what the zoo term also for that is ambassador animals. So you'll have your different animals that you can display for the public to see. And in some cases I'll have a boomslang, for instance, in an acrylic tube. It's hidden in an acrylic tube. And then the most common question is, why isn't it slimy? Because my grandfather or grandma or whoever said it's slimy. And that's just a common misconception which the public have with these animals. So yeah, just to get on Matthew's question, currently my main focus is not currently to breed tortoises for the release of them into the wild. I'm more trying to work with the Wildlife Crime Intelligence Network in trying to stop poaching, trying to see who is keeping tortoises illegally. The main thing is not always that people keep tortoises illegally. I've in some cases seen people keep tortoises illegally, but the husbandry care, you can see there was a lot of effort put into how they are keeping the animals. You guys, I think I did share it on our WhatsApp group as well. On the 53 Chelonians that were put down, it was about 2.5 weeks ago. That was on municipal grounds. It could have totally been prevented. I was actually one of the people that suggested that the animals, I was contacted about it. I was actually one of the people that suggested that the animals should be put down because it wasn't just a normal case of respiratory infection. It was severe respiratory infection where there's bubbles and, multiple amounts of discharge from the nasal cavity. 2 tortoises were found dead in the enclosure, and it wasn't just freshly dead, it was disintegrated tortoises. And as we all know, tortoises are supposedly herbivores, but if they do get the opportunity to get in some meat and they're lacking a serious amount of protein, they will actually scavenge on carcasses. And if those carcasses are infected, basically those parasites are just spreading. There were, for instance, chickens in the enclosures. If the chickens aren't dewormed, all the feces, everything, it's just basically spreading. Hey, Evan. So, yeah, we're basically looking at stuff like that because the main reason why I want to look specifically into that is our current managing authority in the Western Cape is Cape Nature. Now, Cape Nature, believe it or not, they do not issue you permits to rehabilitate tortoises and to release them back into the wild. And that's problem number one. There is supposed to be a municipal or a provincial facility where these sick animals are sent to. They are doctored for at least 6 months to prevent the reoccurrence of respiratory infection. Then they are supposed to have genetic testing being done because there are various localities of leopard tortoises in South Africa. And with the proper blood groups, you can see this one comes from the Free State, this one comes from Northern Cape, or this one's from the Western Cape. And then you can
You're telling us there's localities of leopard tortoises?
Yeah, look, they all fall under Stigmoculus pedalis, but yeah,
we have that argument here in America. Everybody thinks all leopard tortoises are the same, and I beg to differ. I have tons of leopard tortoises. I have giant ones. I have little ones that won't go giant. I have some that look different than the others, and I totally just wanted to get it clear, like someone who's seen it for themselves, So let's get on that a little. I want to hear about that a little more. I'm excited.
So, yeah. So I know, for instance, some of you may see on my Facebook page that because I breed my own rats and mice and stuff once a month, and I'll say tag an NPO and we'll see who can win the raffle, and then I'll send it free of charge to them. And a lot of people ask me, like, why are you doing this? And then my main answer is just, I breed dozens and dozens of rats and mice every month. I see there's a lot of NPOs that struggle every month, but for me personally, it's very rewarding not to only give them the product, but for each person to actually comment in the comment section, Free Me Wildlife or South African Rehabilitation Center for Wild Animals. A lot of people don't know that these places exist at all. And with every comment, then I'm the kind of person, I don't know about you guys, but I'm the kind of person, if I see the place and I've never heard of it, I'll actually click on it and then I'll check what kind of work do they do, and then you start seeing that there are thousands of raptors every year that are saved by these organizations, tortoises, various reptiles, baboons, caracals, servals, you name it. I mean, there's an institution in Johannesburg, Johannesburg Veterinary Clinic, and they do everything from rhinos, pangolins, everything on public funding. So, the one touchy subject with running an NPO like this is obviously you need to do snake removals, and even currently with my snake removals, we don't get any municipal funding. So if we do go remove a snake, then if people do ask, what's your donate or what's your call out fee, I'll say it's in the city. You try and keep it literally at the bare minimum that you can. So it's 150 Rand. I know you guys are going to laugh, like $7. And in many cases, the people just say they can't pay because it's in a rural area. They can't pay it, so they're going to kill the snake. Then like, okay, I'll do it free of charge. And in the beginning phases of your NPO, obviously that money is gold. That's supposed to be allocated in one specific section where you don't touch it at all. But hopefully at a later stage, I will be able to have access to that, and that you can at least put some diesel in your bakkie, that you can do these kind of things, not everything on your own funding. That's actually one of the reasons why I got into the NPO is, my wife's an accountant. So she just keeps looking at that balance sheet of like every month you're in the red with your reptiles. And, somewhere you need to draw the line between, is it a hobby or is it an income? Yeah.
We have a question from one of our guys that he had. Let me find the question quick. Brendan Hettinger. We went to the turtle tours with him. He had a really good question.
Yeah.
What husbandry advice would you give to keepers that are working with South African species like Angulata? I don't know.
Awesome question.
I don't know who's working with Angulata though.
Okay, so with this one, I've stepped on a couple of toes, and I've pissed a few people really off.
That's the good thing about this podcast is we don't give a shit about your feelings.
Yep.
Yeah, I did get off. It's like one of those Ben Shapiro podcasts. I did get that feeling a bit earlier, but it's one of those.
That's nice stuff.
What's that quote? Something like fact or reality. They don't care about your feelings. Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking.
Okay, so we chatted earlier about the parrot-beak tortoises. There was a shipment that came into the US. That's one of the things that I work with. It's you have to try and draw a fine line between, obviously guys keep tortoises in captivity, and yes, they are brought in legally. But the nice thing of me personally, and we've had this chat as well, you must take ego out of it completely. There must be a sense of trust between people. If there's any shipments going into the US or into Europe, people send me links. Are these animals legal? Do you know who bred them? And, with some of the officials, I don't know how the people always get these documents, but they'll send me copies of the documents. It was sent from Europe or sent from here. Do you know the breeder, or is it a credible source? All that. So just to get on the parrot-beak tortoises, some of the people messaged me and said, surely these animals, they look 100% wild caught. They don't look like captive bred animals. For those of you that are worried about that, the animals are actually, in fact, 100% legal. They were from Europe. CITES documents, everything stipulated specifically it was captive bred animals. But here's the controversial part. A lot of people keeping South African species keep them absolutely too dry. If you're working with species that are, for instance, from the Karoo or semi-Karoo areas, they do get quite a lot of condensation early morning. A lot of the guys have them on full blast heat lamps and very high UVB. UVB is fine, but if you're not going to mist them once a day, or if it's in extreme, I mean, if you're living in the middle of Texas and you're not misting them in the morning, for instance, even if it's indoors, they are going to get severe pyramiding. And that is the case with the ones that were imported into the US now. The photos that I saw, the parrot beak tortoises have severe pyramiding. The photos that I've shared with you guys about my parrot beaks, you can see they don't have severe pyramiding at all. And in my case, even with my babies, I'll have heating lights on straight through the day for 12 hours. But there where the heat source is, I'll have a humidifier on the lowest setting, just blowing a little bit of humidified air onto that section of the enclosure. And yeah, I think with angular tortoises, there was a YouTube video about them 2 years or so ago. I just like to set a few things straight about angular tortoises. A lot of people believe that they are highly stressed in captivity. It's absolute crap. If they are stressed in captivity, I can 100% assure you those animals are not captive bred. If you look at an angular tortoise in the wild, as soon as it sees you, it tries to pace away. As soon as you see them in captivity, they're not like that at all. I've seen with friends of mine in Cape Town, as soon as they see you, they would come to you like a radiator tortoise, very strong personality. They like begging you for a hibiscus flower or something that's bright in color. And then, in some cases, I call it the 1% rule, but 1 in every 100 male angular tortoises are a complete arsehole. They want to bash everything. They'll come bite your toes. They'll come ram you. It's like as if something, they were like dropped as a hatchling type thing. They just, there's something that's miswired. So, yeah, for me personally, the main thing is humidity. And, the one thing that I think Americans in general are doing wrong with tortoises is the high protein diets. For me personally, it aggravates pyramiding. Everybody just keeps talking about humidity. It's low humidity that forms pyramiding. High protein actually aggravates pyramiding as well. So it's not a direct cause of pyramiding, but it actually does. It does aggravate pyramiding. So for me, staple diets like plantain, dandelion, hibiscus leaves and flowers, mulberry leaves, those kind of things, that's the way to go with angular tortoises. They actually do like certain succulents like echeveria and eniums as well. And then with the parrot beak tortoises, my babies love, I'm just trying to think of the English word. In Afrikaans, it's called spekboom. English, it's called elephant food tree. It looks almost like a jade plant. Funnily enough, it's the plant that releases the most oxygen out of anything. There's actually plantations of them in California that they're experimenting with, combating global warming and all that. But yeah.
That's awesome. And I couldn't agree more with the whole protein and stuff. Dane, what are some of the things that you guys are feeding your tortoises over at the reptile gardens?
Oh, reptile gardens, huh? So I'm same in the US. I guess Dirk knows the reptile gardens in South Africa, which is kind of cool. But yeah, we're on the same level. I'm not a huge believer in the high humidity causes the smooth shells. Obviously there's exceptions, Connexus and redfoots, that kind of thing. But no, we're we kind of keep room ambient temperature or humidity. It's usually about 50 to 60% in our reptile rooms for like our aldabras. But then besides that, for like our savanna animals, it's just straight hay basically. So in the summer they'll eat grass. And in the winter when they're inside, it's just hay. with cactus twice a week. And then that's basically it. It's very basic, high fiber, low protein, low nutritional content to it. And so it's kind of all adds up to a very slow, steady growth. I'm kind of a big believer in the fast growth, causes some of that pyramiding as well.
Yep.
Which I know a lot of people counteract with high humidity. So I do kind of see where that balances out, but I'm kind of an all natural kind of tortoise person. I like the natural diet for them.
We have a question from our good friend Mark Da Silva. Dirk, have you observed pyramiding in wild leopards and sulcatas? I'm not sure. That goes hand in hand with another comment from Sam. He said something along the lines of, I don't think they're in the range, but what do you see with sulcata tortoises in the wild? Are you seeing any African spurred tortoises in the wild, and are you seeing any pyramiding on the leopards and sulcatas?
Okay, so this is a slightly getting into the comment I pitched to you earlier. We're in South Africa, not Africa. So in South Africa, you don't get sulcatas occurring naturally.
Okay.
But with the leopard tortoises, I posted, it was in the last month, you'll see in the Karoo National Park, which is about 8 kilometers from Beaufort West, high density of leopard tortoises there. I did take a couple of photos, so you can see that on my Facebook page. And tell me in all honesty, if you think that any, or I wouldn't go as far as to say any, but the majority of leopard tortoises in the US, if they have such nice shells as those tortoises, and it's a dry area, not 100%, but I would say at least about 85-90% smooth shells. Pyramiding is, and then a lot of people ask me, why are you so controversial with pyramiding? But, just to set the record straight, I am from South Africa. I see leopard tortoises every single time I drive on the national roads, and I never, ever, ever see them with pyramiding. It is not natural at all. And, if you look at the majority of the areas that they are in, it is low rainfall areas, and they don't have pyramiding. So, yeah, that's why I see a lot of guys, they advocate for, just throw them a couple of Missouri pellets and throw them a couple of salad leaves. For me, that's a crap diet. I'll never, ever agree with that.
Yep.
McDonald's and Kansas.
Yep.
So, I do, however, agree with somebody like William Espensade of Capitola Farms. So William, for instance, does give quite a lot of greens in his diets, but then there'll be various lettuce leaves like romaine and cos and baby lettuce, butter lettuce, all that. But then he'll have various dry herbs like plantain, red clover, chicory, all that mixed
mulberry.
with So with that, that's 100% fine, because then the animals are actually getting in nutritional value. But for me personally, if you're just going to give lettuce leaves, that's just a form of hydration. And Missouri is too high in protein. So by all means, you can supplement your animals with Missouri. But I'll go as far as to say, if you really want to look at the best interest of the animal, and advocate your person that's serious about tortoise husbandry, do a little bit more effort. I've got my own little plantations where I grow my plantain. Plantain is an exceptionally good staple food for tortoises. So mine at least gets about 3 times a week they get plantain. But yeah, funnily enough, everybody's got their different opinions on tortoises. But I've definitely seen that nobody else is going to convince me you can have a PhD or whatever you want to have. Tortoises do have a severely good sense of smell. If I do come into my reptile room and I have hibiscus flowers, I can tell you 100% they know. They can't see it in the bucket, but they know it's there.
They become attacked.
I totally agree with that. Yep. Yeah, I have a red
Okay.
flag at my house that will attack the front of the glass every time I bring in food. He just knows he's getting fed. And he always tries to eat me. It's fun.
I'm gonna share the screen for the wheel of names. I'm gonna share it for a couple seconds. Let me know if I didn't get your name. Just comment down below. Dane, just read the comments and be like, "Hey, you missed this person's name." So I'm gonna share my screen with you guys, and we'll see if you guys. Well, just a second. If I didn't mess it up, it's confusing, man. All right, present window. Entire screen. This is not easy stuff, boys
So,
and ladies.
It's rocket science.
Dawson,
Right
Dawson,
Alright.
just for interest, can my name be added to the tortoise team?
Yeah, of course. Let me.
I put mine in there.
Yeah, everybody's welcome.
Those
This
tortoise
is
tents are awesome, dude.
yeah. They're good stuff. I just got mine. I still got to set it up. I got.
Yeah. I've been talking
Very-
to him. I want to get some for my skinks, maybe my prehensile.
Yes. I added you, James. No problem. Let me know if you guys can see that. Let me. Bit long. All right. Let me see if you guys is
Sam Schulman out of there.
take Sam out of there. Yeah, we'll cancel Sam.
I'm kidding.
I got
Sam.
Just
Not
Turtles. That's Anthony, Nick Hotsetter, Andrew Hermes, Python Steve, Chris, Phil, Sam, Matt, Mark, Charlie, Moorcroft, of course, Cameron Lamb. Dane, you're in there somewhere, I'm pretty sure.
Nice.
Are you in there? Let me check.
Better be in there.
I hope so. I got Nick, Cameron, Charlie, Mark Da Silva, Matt Hills, Sam, Phil, Chris, Steve, Andrew, Nick, Anthony, Emily, Evan, Cameron Lamb, James T.
Is
Dane, you're
Austin
not in
Miller
there.
in there? I'm not.
Austin is in there. His name is spelled with an O because that's I thought he was. Do I not see it?
But my name is not in there.
Nope.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add you, Dirk, just a second. And Dane, Phillip, then we'll put Austin M. Who else am I missing, boys and ladies? All right. Cool.
Yeah, Brendan in there.
Yep, Brendan should be in there. Let me check. Brendan Henniger, Brendan. Nope. Good call. Nick, Cameron, Brendan.
Anthony. I like Anthony's introduction.
What? How's it looking? Mike Chan. I got to get Mike in there.
Mark.
I want to see how.
There.
Is that what?
No.
All right. Is it still spinning or no? The heck?
It looks like it froze to me.
No.
Now look at
Keyston. Chan. We're getting names in now.
Keyston.
Someone said
Chan.
Cameron's in there twice.
Is he? Did I get him in there twice? Cameron.
Yeah.
Hey. He's just that good. He's that good. Cameron, this thing, man. All right, so Cameron. Yep, Cameron Lamb's in there. Sorry about that. Sam's in there. I'm telling you guys, this is
Hey, I see it.
Keyston. Did I
My
get
own
Mike Chan?
family's going against me. They told them to put Dirk in there twice.
Mike Chan. Did I get Mike Chan? All right. I'm trying.
You can put in Dirk Barnard and then you can put in TCSA. So then it's either for me for personal or for the NPO.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. So the TCSA. And then who's better put Dirk twice?
Yeah,
I got Keyston. Not Keyston Chan.
No,
I'm typing fast, man. I'm Mike Chan, Keyston Chan. All right. This is funny. I'm gonna grab this tent and show you guys how big this thing is.
Oh yeah, I've always wanted to see one. Let me see.
So I just want to reply quickly to Sota's Exotics. Yes, if you're South African and you don't know how to make biltong, you're not truly South African. So yes, I in fact do know how to make biltong.
That's Sam.
There's a background too, so you guys know. The waterfall background.
Dude, that thing's huge.
Tortoises like to swim in waterfalls, by the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that thing's
James
amazing.
wants another entry.
JTT is a separate entry. Wow, should I put myself? Yeah. Dirk. So we'll give you 10 more minutes and then we'll do the wheel of names. I want to ask, how can we help you achieve your NPO's goal? What can the people in the chat and the people watching who so much love tortoises and turtles and reptiles, what can they do to help you in the best way possible?
It's the weird thing is I had a tortoise talk. It was 2 weeks ago for a conservation area, and my main argument for the whole evening was just a simple word: mindset. I think people's mindsets drastically need to change. That everybody talks about global warming and all these different issues, and people are just accustomed to it's stuff that's not necessarily affecting me, but currently in certain areas tortoise populations are stable. Like I did mention earlier, South Africa is the country that has the most tortoise species. We've got 13 listed tortoise species. It has in fact been confirmed. There was arguments to be made that it is maybe 14 because there's 2 subspecies. That's been disproved. And then you get 2 localities of the Signatus, the speckled putlopers, the northern one and the southern one, but they are in fact the same species. So yes, it's one of those difficult things where, and I'm starting to learn the politics of all the different NPOs and all that. The main thing, unfortunately, does come down to funding. For me personally, I do think it's going to take at least 2 years, and I know it's a hell of a lot of money. My projection is currently that I need $250,000 for my NPO. And it's one of those things where you don't really want to tell people it, because then you discourage people to not give a $5 donation type thing. Again, that's where it comes into mindset. If a lot of people donate $5, that does make a huge difference. And I think a lot of people are completely discouraged that if I'm giving $5, it's a slap in the face to the guy that's wasting his time reading through the comments and he sees somebody donated $5. So yeah, for me personally, that's where the whole mindset thing comes in. A lot of people think that they I'm running out of English. Just so, by the way, this is my second language. So there's various factors that need addressing with tortoise conservation. But like I said, the main thing for me is I want to try and see how fast I can get to my goal of purchasing the piece of land. And then from there on, then you've got your other things that you need to address in, there must be a quarantine facility, there must be a rehabilitation facility, there must be an educational facility. So yeah, it's, on the one side, I'm very overwhelmed already by the TTPG. Russ Gurley offered me a table. As you guys know, you guys are volunteers. Thank you very much. And yeah, for me, that's probably one of the things why I like Reptile Expo so much is, there's always that the networking part of, you afterwards. Everybody always talks about the actual expos, but for me personally, one of the nicest things was we had a rule that if you have an expo and, at the end of the day, everybody is tired, it's been a very long day, and then you say, no, fuck it, let's all go for a beer or 3 and we chat. And for me, that was the nicest thing, because then you can have one-on-one conversations with people. You can see if you're talking about Homopus areolatus, people don't look at you like you're crazy. They actually know what you're talking about. So yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, you don't want to beg people and you don't want to step on toes and saying like, please support my NPO, please support my NPO. But at the end of the day, there's nothing really else that you can do. And on the one side, you just hope that people are on the same level playing field as you. And then that's where the whole ego thing must be completely out of the door. Because I'm not working to show off to people or to try and build a name for myself or to try and show I've got more expensive or rare or nicer animals than you. I'm fortunate enough to live in South Africa with all these diverse tortoise species. But the reality of the fact is that you're seeing that the habitat is decreasing with more and more development coming in, crows taking over, all those different things. And at the end of the day, if everybody's just going to sit, you know, in the comfort of their home and say, oh, well, it's in Africa, doesn't affect me. You know, a lot of people do ask me, can you export for me? And they'll be able to offer me a couple of $1,000s per tortoise. But as soon as you mention the word conservation or NPO, then, oh, sorry, I couldn't get back to you because I was very busy. You know, it's always the same shit every day. A lot of people are focused on their personal collections, their egos, all that. And for me, it's more to do with conservation and the preservation of herpetofauna.
I couldn't agree more, man. And that's why me and Dane and all these people are so eager to help, because this is exactly where I want to see my donations going to. I can see it firsthand where it's going. I know who it's going to. I've had time to talk to the person that it's going to. I can see how it's helping. And in the unfortunate reality, society's not going to just stop anywhere in the world because tortoises are getting killed, their land's being taken, reptiles are being destroyed. That's not going to stop. But what we can do is continue to build stuff that can prevent them from never being on this earth ever again. So we can help keep those tortoises for future generations and future science. And maybe to the point where someday in the future, when the governments do come together and they're like, wow, we're destroying this earth and these things and nature's going away. We're overbuilding. We're too focused on ourselves rather than we need to focus on nature. We can sit back and be like, oh, we're so thankful that we kept this species. We have the species alive. We can reintroduce it into the wild. We can set up nature. We can set up protected lands and stuff where we can reintroduce this stuff instead of having to sit back and have the sad reality and be like, sorry, we let that species die. We let it go extinct. You know, now my great-great-grandchildren will never get to experience a padloper tortoise. I've never seen one personally, but I'd like to someday. Same with the angulateds and stuff. And it just goes for all species. So I really want to thank everybody for joining. It means a lot to me, but I know it means even more to Dirk. I appreciate Dirk waking up so early on his time. It's like almost 4:00 now, 4 a.m.
Yeah, you know, the weird thing for me is quite a bit of the donations that I got in was purely because of Andrew Hermes. Not of him personally, but just because he shared it and he's got quite a big network and a lot of guys saw that. You guys, for instance, saw that post, and that's how I met you guys. And you know, for a lot of people it would seem totally stupid. You know, it's just one Facebook share. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have most probably known who you guys are. Chatted to you guys. You know, with both of you, as soon as I got your donation in, I gave you guys a call afterwards, say thank you. I'll keep you guys in the loop with what I'm preparing for, what I'm planning for in the near future. But yeah,
I appreciate
tough times, but exciting times.
I know he appreciates all the donations. On the phone the other day, I know he said that he's basically supporting this NPO just out of his own pocket. So yeah, again, all the donations they help, like this comment says right here. It all goes a long way. Even the small stuff, it's all appreciated. It's a great guy right here. He appreciates the smallest of things, you know. So
I know he talked about he'd like to join us at TTBG next year if the
very cool.
all the clouds align and the stars create beautiful pictures, we can be there. So I'm glad we've met you, Dirk.
Turtle tours go to South Africa next year.
Turtle tours in South Africa would be insane.
Let's do it.
Yeah, Matthew asked about the stickers. If Matthew was a little bit better on WhatsApp, he would have seen I did print 500 stickers. They are going to be at TTPG.
Yep.
So Matthew, you're more than welcome to take 1 or 2 or 3. So yeah, they will be at the table at TTPG. Dawson and Dane will be one of the volunteers running my booth. So just to give you guys a heads up, I'm not sure if Matthew is actually one of the volunteers. He's not very good on WhatsApp, like I said. So he did say he wants to help out. So currently, according to me, it's Matthew, Dawson, Dane, Andrew, and Brendan that'll be running my booth at TTPG. So there will be some posters and stuff. One of the photos Dawson shared now with the crushed angular tortoise. You know, those are the kind of things that I won't have at the conference, just because it is very graphic. And you know, you do get some of these bunny hugger people that would say, you know, it's not the time or place. But you know, at the end of the day, when is the time or place to actually show these kind of images? So that's the kind of approach that I have with my NPO and it's kind of the approach that you guys have with this podcast as well, you know, you know, in some cases you need to step on some toes to actually show people what is the reality. And if you don't show these kind of pictures, you know, how do you create awareness? And at the end of the day, the biggest factor for conservation is education. If you're not going to change people's mindsets on what could be tomorrow and what you are changing today for tomorrow, you know, why do it in the first place? So yeah.
Oh yeah, education.
Yeah. Anything else from you, Dane?
No, just like you said, education is key. I actually, an example, I had a lady this summer. I'm a somewhat of a I don't know, educator for reptiles, and I had a lady I met this summer, and I wanted to show this off. Some of you guys have already seen this already.
Somewhat of an educator.
Yeah, but I had this lady paint this just because I spent a couple minutes talking to her about redfoot tortoises that we had on display. She said it inspired her to paint her first first painting that's not a landscape, you know, like beaches and sunsets and stuff like that. So
how old is this lady, Dane?
Yeah, I have no idea. Didn't ask. Not my age, but she's a very sweet lady. Her and her family came. Her husband and kids came through. So
okay, so she does have a husband. Okay, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I know. Dawson.
Dane has that effect on girls. Don't let him fool you, man. As soon as they want.
But yeah, you know,
it's like they just keep coming back.
So I just wanted to show this off.
That's awesome.
She did a great job. But that's just one lady.
Awesome. So I think everybody's waiting.
So, but yeah,
that's a good photo.
This is great painting. Great painting.
Yes, it's great. Great painting. Paintings are super unique. Just want to let's add this to the stage and get this freaking giveaway over and get everybody to bed. I'm tired. Everybody else is tired. All right.
Charlie was like, let's spin.
Okay, let's spin. Charlie's like, go to bed. Click to spin. All right.
Better land on my name.
Oh, well deserved.
Nice. Look at that. Look at that. Congratulations, Emma. That's cool. That's very cool. That's one of the turtle tours. She came with us on the turtle tour.
Yeah, she was with us on turtle tours. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dirk. Thank you, Dane. I'll see you guys at TTPG.
Be there on Wednesday.
Emma, I'll send you a message on Facebook, and we will get that set up. So there will be a second chance to win the raffle at TTPG. Be there, be square, and don't be Sam. Good night, everybody.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.